What is going on? What is going on? What is going on? Welcome to Monday Quality Talks. Indeed, we're back. That's right. It's been a moment. It's been a minute. I've been feeling not so much in touch with my mojo. And yeah, it took me some time to just get my vibe back. Just because, you know what, I just wanted to come through with a different kind of flow, different kind of vibe when it comes to you know, the show. But then I was like, you know, why trying to change something that already works? And you know, yeah, you know, just decided to just do what I do. And you know, also these past couple of months have been you know, rather demanding. You know, there's been quite a lot going on with so much work related to the album. It was just crazy. It was just crazy, and that also, you know, took a lot of my energy and a lot of my attention. So yeah, back indeed. Neil, hello indeed. Happy New Week. Happy Monday. I do hope that you have all started your week in the best of spirit and health. You know, here I wanted to talk about adaptability because I realized that again, you know, it's a constant sort of loop, right? Where when you think you've sort of like overcome a certain situation, you realize that shit, you know, things keep kind of like catching back to you, and it's very frustrating. And now it comes to exactly the point I'm trying to talk about. Lorraine, what's going on? Today is considered as the most depressing day of the year, so thank you for coming through. Fam needs to connect. Indeed. I feel you. You know, it's a challenging. It's challenging. You know, every new year comes with end of the year, and year comes with its sets of, you know, weird energy going on, and readjustments. You know, just pressing that reset button, and sometimes it doesn't quite work, you know, as you wish. Because this is the thing, right? When you are ready to move, you can't expect others around you to be. As much as, you know, you might want them to understand what it is you're trying to do. And I know I've spoke about that before on previous Monday Quality Talks, but it is such a deep, vast topic that we can really tap into the different layers over and over and still find new ways and new, you know, opportunities to look at this given topic of how do you alleviate the shitty vibe? How do you sort of like switch it up? How do you come up with a series of things that will allow you to, you know, just pick yourself back up on demand almost? And I know that sounds very much hard to do and easy to say, and it is very hard to do. As a matter of fact, just before the show tonight, I had two shitty goals. Well, one was not so shitty. The first one was just like, it's just like, you know, and it's interesting because I wanted to talk about adaptability since this morning. Um, and then it so happened that, as I let the day unfold, there was this relatable experiences that came up to me, and it was just really, 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 really weird. I can't even begin to explain to you. Um, but you see, it is very hard to shift your focus, your energy, um, your spirit when you're emotionally involved with the very thing you're trying to shift yourself from. Um, because a lot of the time, especially when it comes to people, they'll find a way to somehow get under your skin or say something that's gonna, trigger you or whatnot. And the very complicated part of this side of this exercise is to actually find a sense of like a baseline where you come back to, so you don't necessarily let that situation affect you so much that you go deep. You just maintain. Yeah. Oh shit. I didn't need that right now. I didn't need that phone call right now. Why the hell are you, trying to bring this energy to me when, that's not what I'm conveying to you. That applies to work, relationship, love, etc., etc., etc. And there's another thing that we have to work on is expectation, because you see a lot of the time we do things out of a good heart, willing to impact that person's life in the most positive way, and we realize that soon enough these people, when they are empowered, they're back on their feet, or whatever is going on, that they finally get themselves back up. You can't expect them, and as a matter of fact, it's proven that they will stray away from you. They will no longer. You were there as a crutch, you were there as a support, you were there for whichever reason you had to serve. You serve that purpose, and that's where it's at. And that can be very frustrating for somebody who has a tendency to give a lot. And that's where you have to work on yourself, understanding where you just set the limit and be like, look, this is not fucking okay. This is not gonna happen. I will no longer let myself be absorbed by a situation upon which I really have no business getting involved in the first place. However, that does not mean that you cannot somehow provide, presence, a listening ear, or some advice as if you asked for. But a lot of the time, people don't come at you for advices. They want to vent. And so I'm dressing the picture. I'm going to get into the actual thick of it in a moment. So bear with me and stick with me as I'm, painting this whole picture for you, from my perspective again. And that's where, you come to this realization that, okay, cool. If, for example, you have committed to calling somebody every day or every 2 days, for example, and checking on them, making sure that they're good, etc., etc. The value to which you hold yourself to, the value to which you set your standard to, is not the same as the other person you're talking to. It's not the same as the person you're helping or you're sharing time and space with. And when you understand that, that doesn't mean they're less, that doesn't mean you're more. It just means that you're on completely different, frequencies. And a lot of the time, this is the part that usually breaks my heart, but just I feel sorry for people who feel revengeful, who feel like, God's gonna punish you, it's gonna get back at you. Why? As hurt as you are, for you to wish bad upon somebody, and I'm not trying to be, moral policing, but I'm just saying, for you to be so full of yourself in a way, because you're like, well, I've done all I've done, and this is what I'm getting in return. But what did you expect in the first place? What did you expect in the first place? If you were truly, genuinely there to attend to a person, to attend to the growth of a given business or whatever it may be, it is normal that, of course, given the idea that, or starting from the concept that, you share common values, well, that person would actually understand the concept of, I got you on the next one. Oh, you know what? I won't forget that whole concept. But even that is all based on expectations. And expectations 99.9% of the time lead you to disappointment, at least from my perspective and my little experience of life. I'll give an example. Adaptability. And this is really where my main reason for today's show is focused on, is the singularity of one's capacity to really take their life into their own hands, understanding that once they decide to go against the grain, to go against a certain norm, established norm, they will have back. You will have a back. And the backlash will usually 9 times out of 10 come from the people nearest to you. Some of it is legit, especially if you probably get ahead of yourself. But a lot of the time, it's based on not understanding, or that person's lack of capacity to put themselves in your shoes to understand where you're coming from, where you are, and where you're trying to go. Because as they're listening to you talking, they're visualizing themselves in that situation with their limited perception of your perception, which is theirs, right? Because it's limited to whatever they see themselves as. So not saying that they're less or anything, but at the end of the day, there are indeed, we can't be politically correct forever. There are indeed some people who are behind, not behind in terms of intelligence or anything like that, but there's some people who are energetically refusing to just elevate. And that's why, you always have to understand that, okay, let me adapt. Let me adapt not by, undervaluing myself, but by acknowledging that this is where you are and I respect this place you're in. That's not what I'm trying to be. And that's not what I'm trying to be. That's not where I would like to be and remain. So, hey, you know what? Meet me there if you want. But either way, do you. We're cool. That's okay. We can still communicate, but it's going to be limited to the confines of, this environment that we're able to communicate in and share the kind of verbiage that associates to your capacity to understand the message I'm conveying. And so when you say that, people take that to offense because it's like, oh, you're making me look or making me feel stupid. No, you're not stupid. This is the thing. It's not a question of intelligence. This has no connection whatsoever to intelligence. It is a sense of capacity of developing your capacity and your senses to be able to adapt, to be able to always aim at evolving. And to evolve doesn't always mean that you are divorcing something for another, even though, yes, a lot of the time it has something to do with it. But, for example, people think that evolution, for example, let's say, proper business conversation here. When I got into the music industry, and feel free, by the way, to jump in the comments. By the way, let me take a moment because I was getting to it already. Welcome. This is Monday Quality Talks. I did say that in the beginning, but I have to repeat. Please be very welcome. Make sure you press those like buttons. We need to see those likes up. It's very important. I want to see those likes up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're liking this content. And of course, if you're able, make sure you show some love by the super chats, the super stickers, PayPal, you name it. Because if you're watching this as a replay, you got the description section of this video where you can find means and ways you can support this show. Which I know I have not brought to you every week as promised, but you got quarantine rules anyway on Fridays, so meet me halfway. and you might not necessarily realize as well. It's again, it's adaptability. It's like it's very it's demanding, mentally to dissect what it is that you can say and what it is that you have to refrain from saying, because not everything is good to be shared, at least at a certain given time, right? So it's also understanding timing and dosage. But yeah, with that being said, right? So when I I got discovered, by the industry, the music industry, house music, etc. I was that new kid that had created a sound for himself that was just really new, but at the same time not necessarily, because obviously, yes, I come from a school of pioneers that have influenced my sound in ways I can't even begin to describe. So of course there was influences of different producers that I love, from different kind of genres of music, etc. And the more I evolved as a musician, the more I adapted to my new sense of consuming music, producing music, and DJing that music, right? And so I went from a very hardcore underground, purist, and F the commercial music, F the commerce of music, F money, but at the same time I was like, but that's conflicted because inherently, before making music, I used to cut diamonds. That was my first job, right? In Belgium, in Antwerp. So I was like, and I quitted that. I left that to, fully dive into the music and literally make music my everyday bread, which, as you can imagine, the first several years of this, journey were dire, to say the very least. So there was an interesting conflict between the different sides of me. The underground purist in me was like, yeah, fuck this, da da da. And then there was the side of me that was like, no, but I still gotta, be able to make money. And I was being caught in the loop of people and in an environment of people that were happy seeing you do evolve, but not necessarily happy to see you do really big. And because the problem is that in certain environments, unfortunately, when you it's very ghetto, right? So it's a mentality that's very ghetto. It's like, okay, the moment you blow up, it's like, yeah, but you see, the moment you're gonna blow up, you're gonna forget who you are. Like most people, right? The shit on where they came from, etc., etc. They don't, because but that's because a lot of the time people think that money or fame changes you. No, it reveals you. You're not being changed, you're being revealed. Just like when you're dating somebody and you encounter a hurdle along the way, and that situation, that challenge will reveal your true self. You have not changed, you've just not known about that side of you until you got confronted with the real life situation that will reveal it to you. So how do you adapt to that? Because that's a new set of information. It's like, shit, I didn't know I was capable of doing that. I was capable of thinking like that. And I didn't even know there was a different possibility, a different way to go about this. I knew I wanted to create that way, but I just didn't know there was a way to do it. And that way was what? That way was to understand the necessity to truly be open, truly be a learner, and humbling myself. Because you see, if you want to learn, you will not learn nothing if you're full of that ego that literally makes you a dick and you're in no way, shape, or form capable to receive the vast wealth of knowledge that can be, poured upon you by the people that you aspire to get knowledge from, get information from. So I was always, but that's also my education. I was always told to stay humble, right? Especially with my elderly, sisters and brothers. I was always, respectful, and that sense of respect allowed me to enter certain doors, to enter certain rooms, to sit at certain tables because I was able to shut the fuck up and listen. Listen, agree or don't agree. That's just me listening. Adapting to my environment and reshaping my sets of understanding, my sets of values. Because, there are indeed core values that can't be changed, but they have to be adapted, right? For example, I don't have an example right now, but you're presented with an opportunity to make $1 million, and you offered a set of choices that clearly put your honor in jeopardy. So basically, you would have to make choices that, will be you may not necessarily like yourself when you look at yourself in the mirror. And that's the question: are you willing to go that way to just make that $1 million when you know that there's another way? It's going to be a little longer, but you at least be a little bit more proud of yourself. That's if you were offered to fucking get on your knees or do some bullshit or steal from somebody, etc., right? Kind of dumb shit like that, which a lot of people have done, and they look at themselves super comfortably in the mirror. They're happy with themselves until, unfortunately, karma comes and bite back in the ass, which it always does. Whether you do good or bad, by the way, karma happens, and that's another thing that takes a lot of time to process. Therefore, when I evolved sonically from my true underground hardcore perception of music and how music needed to sound, etc., to now a more mainstream or a more open sound or more digestible kind of music. That happens when my father dies, because all my career, at least until my father passes away in 2014, the interesting thing is that he was always telling me, it's like, your music is amazing, but it's too complicated. You can still transmit the same message, the same depth, the same intensity, but formulate it in a way that's digestible by a vast amount of people. In other words, make spiritually infused sounds cool and fun to kick it to. I looked at him like he was just talking some nonsense, because I just didn't understand what to do and how to go about making that possible. So my response was like, but you don't understand, because you like, and maybe he didn't understand some stuff, but he was not wrong. Because it's like, if you're planning to make a living from this, you're gonna have to figure out a formula. Just like you have to figure out a formula when you do anything in life that is not a regular 9-to-5 job where you have a boss at the end of the day that gives you your money, your check at the end of the month, right? And even when you have that, if you have the mindset and the capacity to actually endeavor yourself into, external stuff to what you're already doing in order to help you make ends meet or get a slightly better income at the end of the month, it's all about adapting, and making choices, right? So when that choices to when similar choice, when that whole movement in my musicality happened to me, I started to produce sound differently. Like the sounds that came out of my hands of me were just different, and there was nothing I could do about it, and nothing I also wanted to do against it neither, because for me it was just the natural extension of me. Um, but I was very well aware that I would encounter some serious backlash. So when I started to do my ancestral soul interpretation mixtapes, uh, which were a rather big success, and set a whole trend of thing, of course, after that in the industry. Before being successful as they were superly critiqued. Promoters started to talk shit and saying that I was this, I was that, and it's no longer the Boddhi that we know. We're not sure we're going to book him next year. We're not sure we're going to book him next month, etc., etc., etc. And I was like, you know what? I understand, but what's wrong with just evolving, right? And I was like, okay, cool. Agents at the time were like, no, you gotta adapt, man. Come on, we need you to give us some music to get back into the scene. And I was like, all right, cool. So I started, producing again the songs that was required for me to, enter the certain clubs, etc., etc. And that's great, can do that. And it's important to understand the difference between what you're doing for you and what you're also doing for commerce and for just for the people as well. And still managing to maintain that strong you within that whole, Caesar salad, right? That's not easy. But you adapt, you try, you fail, you come up with new formulas, you realize that shit, drum patterns you create influence a whole fucking generation of producers. And every time you come up with new beats, you're seeing the guys that are really like, observing all your beats, just like I was when Nostrina Day would drop, or Kenny Dope, Louis Vega, or Alton Miller, or Ron Trent, you name them. All those guys came up with new shit, and I would just fucking be there starting the music. And that's amazing. You have alumni that, are coming after you, listening to what it is that you're doing, and ready to take from what you're given and transform, and eventually end up inspiring you in return because they've worked on their envelope and mastered a certain kind of sound themselves. So it's again adaptability, right? Adaptation, etc. But you see, there's so many layers to adaptability that it's not also just your capacity to adapt, right? Mountain of Inspiration, what's going on, King? Welcome. Thank you very much for tuning in. Appreciate your presence. It's also how you're able to put yourself in the other person's shoes. As a DJ, I've had the blessing and the chance to perform almost all around the world. Almost. I didn't do South America yet, New Zealand, Australia, but pretty much every other countries I've DJed. And it opened my eyes and my skill, which is a very specific skill. It's one of observation. I've always been a very observing person. When I go out, I observe, I look at people, I analyze how they react to music, I analyze how the DJ plays, I listen to the songs that are being played, I listen to the specific moments where people react a certain way when that DJ plays a given tune, etc., etc. So all these experiences through the years allowed me to really paint a picture that is or a series of pictures to which I fall back to when I enter specific environments, specific venues where I'm demanded to play in front of a big crowd, etc. Or even sometimes I remember I had a gig in Rome, in Milan. Big shout out to Massimiliano La Piovra, and he booked me at his venue, and he did a great job, man. He promoted the night the best way he could. It was a small venue, and he's always been a guy that supported my music. And man, there was literally 4 people that night in the venue. 4 people. And the guy was so, he felt really bad, but he already paid my fee. I was like, look, I'm here, bro. I'm gonna do my job. And I played, and it happened that within the 4 people that were there, you know, um, you know, 2 of them I knew, obviously, and the 2 others were ended up. One was there with his fiance at the time, and wife now, and became a very good friend of mine. A big shout out to DJ MS. Um, and had I not DJ'd like if there was 100+ people in front of me that night, I would have probably never created that connection because I was genuine in my performance. Now, granted, I know 100 colleagues with the kind of stature, status, name, whatever, they would say, ah, fuck that, da 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 da. Why? It's never been me. And that's always been something that worked against me. Adaptability. Sometimes by being too adaptable, we get diluted. That's where you have to understand with whom you're adapting and how much you're adapting. You know what I mean? How much you're giving, in other words. Because it's all about, measuring what will be the aftermath or the result or the outcome or, the return on that investment of energy, etc., etc. So in that case, I knew it was a safe thing to do because these are not the kind of promoters that they're not vampires. These are just guys running the pop and moms kind of store. They're just big fans and they just want to host you the best way they can, and treat you to the best possible food they can treat you to, and that's a groove, that's a vibe, right? So blessings, Papa Kesha. Yes, indeed, the Boddhi is in the building. Shot gang as well. Welcome indeed. And so I've always had to balance my humility, which was, but again, I'm not trying to say that I'm super humble because I'm also cocky. I can't be cocky like anyone else. But my education has been so strict. My dad, my grandfather, my mother, like they were so strict in making sure that I always fucking stay humble, because they would humble my ass real fucking quick. And I was a kid, I never liked to be told what to do. Oh, Papa Kesha, si il a mis pour la donation. Ah là là, 9 € n'est dans 9. Ah, vraiment, doba, sponsor des sponsors. So that kind of like continued chasing me, and that's how I am to this day. I don't like to be told, right? I don't like to be told of. So I'm always gonna try to behave in a way, in the best possible way. So I'm mindful of other space. I'm mindful of my distance. I'm mindful of my place. I know my place. Even when I'm given space to, where somebody, we go to somebody's house and they'll be like, look, man, this is your home. Please help yourself to the fridge. I can't. I'm always going to be asking kids, please, can you get me something? Or do you mind if I take? And if they say yes, I say, oh no, but do you mind if you, unless they cannot do it, then I'll go and eventually open the fridge and help myself to what it is that they're offering or what I'm asking, right? This is my education. This is the values, a set of things that I know not everybody has. And under being conscious of the fact that just because you have that sense does not mean that other people will have it as well. It's accepting that difference, but not letting yourself get lost in your sense of abnegation and sort of, capacity to, at a certain point, lack the courage to say, this is where I'm drawing the line. That's where your adaptability became a situation where you allow the person to, because you were so flexible, it allowed that person to enter now your space, and you're cornered. You're no longer able to oppose a measured responds to the attitude, the behaviors, etc., etc., etc. And this is something that I had to learn, and I'm still learning to a certain extent, but I've learned very well now by now. Because, when you are kind, people will always think you're dumb. And it will never go out of fashion. For me, I will never stop being a kind person just because people done me wrong. However, you have to understand that you're going to be more guarded. Of course, it's normal. Nobody likes to be hurt, whether it be in business, in friendship, love, etc., etc., etc. Nobody likes that feeling because you feel abused, you feel taken advantage of, even though it may not necessarily be the case. It may not necessarily be the case because it could also very well be your own interpretation of a given situation and your ego feeling bruised when it should have nothing to do with it. You got to be, and this is the thing, adaptability requires of you to be as cold as you can be with your move making so that you're not doing things out of spite, but yet use anger or resentment or any kind of off feelings that you may have within you as a fuel to giving into something more positive. And instead of biting back, understanding that, let me be the bigger person in this picture for now. Because sometimes you do need to slap a bitch. By that, I'm not saying woman or no. Just in general, right? So don't come and take my words off of the context. You do need to sometimes just be like, hey, hold the fuck off now. You're not gonna trespass this position here. Stay in your place. Know when to respect the limit I'm giving between our, environments, because right now they're not mixing. And that's the thing, right? So setting boundaries, setting your personal goals, understanding that if you lack a real sense of self, you will be taken advantage of. Nicole Gonçalves, muito boa noite. Be very welcome. Thank you very much for tuning in. And so, you see, circling back to what I was saying, so as I evolved in my career, 21 years career now, this year, this and that and the other, seen a lot of things. I've not seen it all, but I've seen quite a lot. And it's interesting because a lot of the behaviors are usually rooted in lack of self-confidence. And that's why, every time I see people, for example, having overnight success, or even if it's success that they worked for, and I think success in general is overnight. Please get me here, follow what I'm trying to say. By overnight, I'm not saying that you've not done shit and it came upon you. No. It's something you prepare for, but you don't know when it comes. You either have to be super, super, super aware of yourself and the environment you're in and being able to notice when to place your moves and then eventually put yourself in close proximity to successful opportunities, or just by way of doing the work you're doing and eventually having so much people showing love, etc., becoming somewhat an attraction to opportunities that will give you the success. You understand? So, thank you, my king. It's that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in us. Even though I haven't practiced in 2 years. Actually, 3 years, man, I miss it. But the COVID thingy, man, after catching COVID and all that, I'd love to go roll with the boys, but Jiu-Jitsu is all about close proximity, so I'm just not comfortable doing that yet. But I will be back soon. Anyway, so with that being said, you see, I understood that there was a lot of different shifting grounds, and that it's understandable that one does not know and how to adapt and even carry themselves in a given environment where for which they thought they had prepared themselves, but they were not actually prepared. Because it's one thing to say, oh, when I'm making all this money, I'm going to be doing this, that, and that, and that. I'm guaranteeing you 99.9% of the time, when that money comes in, all these ideas that you had, if you had not written them down, they are gone. I've been there myself. I didn't make the million, but I made, at a certain point in my career, I made a lot of money. But the money that I made, I never used it for me. I've always used it for my family. I always looked at my people, and I always made sure that everybody was taken care of, paying bills. So my money was never used to go and buy, material things that will fulfill my ego and desire to show status or anything like that. But yes, I do recall that I had great ideas. And then when that chunk of money came, because I had worked, I was gigging, and then you're like, oh shit. And then before you know it, that money's gone, and you're like, what happened? And you didn't necessarily get stuff for yourself, but that's what happens. When you, for example, you're a family man, I don't have my own kids, but I've always been a family guy. I've always made sure that my family is good. And that always was priority. But in doing that, I adapted to a form of being that was so selfless that I forgot about myself along the way. Not saying that there was anything wrong in helping, and there's nothing wrong, but there's something wrong in forgetting about looking after yourself first, because if you're not served accordingly, you cannot serve others. And what I'm saying might be like, yeah, but what about the dictators? Well, we're not talking about dictators here. We're not talking about, and even that is very, you got to be very careful about terms being used to gaslight and to trigger responses, emotional responses that lack, context and historical perspective on a given topic or a given situation, right? If you don't have the full story, if you don't have the full understanding of what it is that you're addressing or trying to address, you will be wrong, and you will hit the mark in some aspects, but I guarantee you eventually you will be wrong in your approach, because you've not had the whole picture. You've just taken what people said and made it yours, which is a completely different thing. At that point, then you become a parrot, and that is something that I think one has to be very careful. And I was also to a certain extent, very much guilty of doing that, because, for example, I've always loved to be surrounded by people more intelligent, more successful than me, more advanced in knowledge, etc., etc. I have that love for intelligence and remarkable thinking people, women and men alike. So sometimes I know something was said that was super intelligent, and I would repeat it, but I would not understand the context of what I was repeating in a given conversation. Not because I lacked the intelligence, I just lacked the necessary drive to do the diligent work of verifying the information, recouping it with my understanding of what it meant, and together with the actual facts of what it meant. Because adapting requires for you to be able to say, yes, I was wrong, and recalibrate and readjust the target. So when I had this Nicole Gonzalez, you're talking about observing what's the message behind your art, open sea. Oh wow, you're taking me to a deep one. Interestingly enough, that's a great question, because it's very much tapping into what I'm talking about. A lot of my drawings, my paintings, speaks of and on personal experiences. 100% of the time, actually. You know, I use a lot of subliminal messages, and I use that as a therapy. You know, I use painting, I use music. I've always done it for music, but now that I have embraced my painting and drawing skills, thanks to my good brother Keisha, who really strengthened my courage, and was like, look, adapt to this new environment and fucking explore your gifts. You don't know until you try. And tried, and I found out, I had something to share. I had a message to share. So a lot of my art is reflective of society, of my personal relationship with people, with love as well. You'll notice a lot of my messaging is about love, and being hurt and being betrayed, and or being too much of a giver, etc., etc., etc. Because that is indeed undeniably a tool that I use to transmit messages that I know will be relatable to a lot of people, right? Because we're not the only one to be feeling the way we feel, to think the way we feel. There is a whole community of people out there in the world who feel exactly the same way, and who sometimes feel helpless and almost victim of their ways, which are not essentially bad, because you can exude all these skills and great human traits, but in real life, that shit literally evaporates, because real life doesn't just fucking work the way you want it to work. And yes, Papa, you're right. It takes you 4 years to always convince me, because it takes me that time. Because I'm processing information. I really take a moment to let things sink in. Because you see, that's another thing, right? When I have, I think we all have imposter syndrome, or we had. I mean, I don't have it anymore. But when it comes to, for example, painting and drawing, I think I had to battle a little bit of that, because I was like, I'm not a painter. I'm not an artist like that. Really? Who said that? Okay. Once you deconstruct that belief, that perception of yourself, then you're able to truly unlock that gift. So yes, quickly to answer, I did answer what you asked, but yeah, if you look into my art, and especially now, for example, with now the fact that I'm associating the music that I'm doing with my artwork. As a matter of fact, if you look at if you go to my Instagram and you see my latest works, all the covers have a deep message, and they're all NFTs, by the way. All these art pieces are NFTs, so it's not only just music, but it's also, body of work that's going to be, available on the NFT market, and one of the marketplaces OpenSea, and soon I'll be on crypto.com. But yeah, with that being said, when I was confronted as I evolved within my career with the necessity to adapt to the new me, because you see, we always look at adaptation as something that's external, right? But it's internal first and foremost, because you have to stand in your truth, and you have to first see the truth, accept it, stand in it, own it, move with it. In my opinion, that's what I feel and what I believe, and at least that's my process. So understanding for me these essential elements, I was like, okay, who can I talk to? I would speak to Keisha, I would speak to Lee, I would speak to a couple of other friends, and I would speak to a few people. And I would hear different, perceptions, perspectives, telling different stories to the story I'm bringing, and giving me the freedom to then start forming an opinion, start forming a better picture with different perspectives, to then make a choice that will be mine. And so eventually, when you're one who has no fundamental issues with evolution, but you just don't necessarily know how to go about adapting to the evolution, you have to surround yourself with people who have walked that walk already before you, to guide you through the processes. All they can do is just give you the elements of their experience, and you take of it what you need, because you're gonna make mistakes, you're gonna have trials and errors, but they're gonna be yours. And at least you have already a little bit of a map, a roadmap to how to address, your moves along the journey. And so, you see, the backlashes, the not being understood, eventually and that's the thing. So, as I was also, I'm very stubborn. When I decide to do something, I will do it. When I decide to go a certain way, because it takes me a long time to make a decision. I will analyze, because I'm a Libra, so I take time, analyze, and then once I decide to move, I'm unstoppable. I'm going all in, and I have no problem, correcting my trajectory along the way. But I have got to experience something that allows me to truly understand that, okay, that is something that I need to adapt. I need to reinforce a necessity for a correction of my course. Otherwise, yeah, that's it. Once I decide to make the move, I make it. So when you're cautious, when you're making sure that you gather all the intelligence you need to gather in order for you to truly understand what you're getting into, and you do that usually before others. Not saying that you're more intelligent or anything. It's just that you are always never happy with the status quo. You always put things in perspective, and you're always looking for the next challenge. That's the kind of person I am. Don't get me wrong. I like a little bit of comfort. I mean, for fuck's sake, can't be dealing with too much fucking switches consistently, and that's a pain in the butt. However, it is important and necessary to understand that the world we live in now is moving so fast. None of us, very few of us are able to adapt to it. Actually, I don't even know if there's that many that. Actually, I don't even know who can adapt to the velocity of these changes. But circling back to something tangible, which is work, which is what I'm doing, which is the music industry, which is DJing. That's why I used the picture of me DJing in Dakar at the Pullman for my Quarantine Grooves sessions last year, because that's exactly the very thing that got me critiqued by a lot of people in my industry. People that just don't understand to this day what I'm trying to do, or no, sorry, what I'm doing. You see, and it's okay. It's okay, because you see, it's important for you to lead by example, and to be ready to be stoned, to be laughed at, to be ridiculed. It's fine, because only you and God know where it is that you're going. And that applies for each and every one of us. Not saying that your life like this is better than another. No, how do you do? It's all about understanding that, okay, look, you're not seeing what I'm doing here. And it's okay. Yeah. When you're going to free the internet, you alone, you're taking all the bandwidth, this and that. Okay, cool. That's fine. Oh, you're a journalist. You got interviews going on. You're doing your little talk. This. I mean, is that anything serious, anyways? And you're just like, hey, bro, hey, sis, just it's just for you to find out with time what it truly will be. Matter of fact, you know what? I'm trying. If it fails, at least I've tried. I didn't allow my fears or especially my fear of judgment, to paralyze me from making the move. And don't get me wrong, I've also not judged, but I've also had lack of understanding of certain people making certain moves because I just didn't see what they were trying to do because they also could not necessarily articulate. But it's an inspiration. And you know what? I was well inspired enough to allow myself not to speak and to observe them making the moves and see them being freaking successful at those moves they were making. And I was like, wow, it's beautiful. And it's inspiring. And so, yes, I made changes that are still to this day not understood by the vast majority of people I talk to. Me, for example, diving into the whole NFT space, not in the same way, not doing the same kind of art as Keisha. My art is more abstract, for example. So I've not necessarily generated any soul. I've not generated any sales. Sorry, I've not sold anything yet. But that does not impeach me from creating the art because you see, the idea is not to generate instant response. You have to be in the space. You have to take the information. You have to learn. And by the way, let's give a big round of applause to brother Keisha for selling out his NFT drop with the sleeves with crypto.com in 38 minutes. That's right. This man has surpassed any expectations one or many may have had by just proving exactly to the point that I'm actually speaking of is exactly that. It's just do the work, let people talk. And as Keisha just said in the comment, les commentateurs ne paient pas le loyer. People who yap and talk don't pay your bills. They don't pay for your rent. And so the moment you free yourself from these emotions is the moment you become fully empowered. And that's where your capacity to adapt becomes even more anchored, ferocious. Because whatever comes your way, you muscle your brain so much that instead of looking at a problem for what it is, you're looking at the solution. And that's what it is. You have to be solution oriented, even more so in this life, you know, because if you think that somebody's going to be there taking you by the hand, and there are indeed people who are ready, and that's the thing. A lot of the time, there are these people that are ready to take you by the hand and be like, look, follow me. And you know what? 9 times out of 10, I love to say that since the beginning of the show, but the very people you take by the hand will be, slapping your hand off and be like, no, it's fine, I'm gonna do my thing. Because you know what? It's easier to do something that you feel comfortable doing, that you already know, but that hasn't shown much more of a success than what you've been doing. Yeah, it's, for example, it's like, let's talk concretely, DJing. DJing, the way I know it, has changed. Proof of it, I'm doing a show every week on my YouTube channel, every Fridays, for free. Except that back 4 years ago, 3 years ago, or just a couple of months ago when we were able to work a little bit, he's paid thousands of euros. And, here I am doing a show every Friday, it's Quarantine Grooves, and people who make donations of 2, 10, 50 euros, 20, whatever, I say thank you. And because it's a different fucking world, it's a different environment. And you know what, you can't be mad at it because it's just what it is. And one has to adapt and create new ways to generate income. That's why, thankfully, with these platforms adapting as well to these new norms, Boom, you have the capacity to get super chat, super stickers. Your fans can actually soon enough be able to subscribe and have a monthly sort of subscription. That will allow you to, start looking at things differently. And you know what? Yes, it's amazing to always listen to all these, artists that are making like 100,000 of this every weekend, every day. But look, at the end of the day, people always want to look at that, but they forget that you need to start somewhere in order to get there, don't you? So the more you add it, the more you stay consistent, and the more you're ready to adapt and to adjust. Again, recalibrate. It's never a straight line. Success is not a straight line. Whoever told you it was is a motherfucking liar. It's important for you to understand that it takes repetition, it takes consistency, it takes all of these different emotions and more to then realize that when you achieve the success, you're like, aïe, non, c'était ça. Bonsoir, la milliardaire. Merci beaucoup. Merci au Shada Gang. Thank you to all the Shada Gang for being here. Appreciate that. All my buddies. Appreciate your presence indeed as well. That's right. You see, when you reach the holy grail of what it is that you had worked hard for, you're like, I did it. And what's next? So if you've not prepared a set of things, put in place a certain contingency plan for things when they not necessarily go the way you want, etc., etc., and also being able to not allow fear to refrain you from going a step forward, from going a step ahead. You might be a little too ahead of your time, but it's okay. When I started Ancestral Soul, I created that sound. It was fathering Afro House as we know it now. It was. And I'm not supposed to say that because, you need to let people say that. No, fuck it. At the end of the day, you have to just say things for what they are and just accept that, you know what? Yes, I've done that. I'm a pioneer in my industry. But you might think it's all glorious and it's all amazing, and I will tell you that it's not. Actually, being a pioneer is not cool. It's great though, but it's not fucking cool. Because the way at least I was a pioneer, I was broke. You gotta accept, and a lot of the time when you're a pioneer, you don't even realize that you're pioneering something. You were just expressing your creativity in a way that, pioneered something, right? And then of course the next generation come and take it and make it theirs, and they create their own thing out of it, and that's the whole point. And so when you keep and when you're not scared and you're not stuck in your ways, and you're like, well, I'm this, I'm that, and whatever, you're ready to always put your title at risk in a way. It's almost like, you're the champ, but you never fail to stay as hungry as the kids, even hungrier than the kids. Not in a way of a competition, but you're just excited to create new things, to just dive into new opportunities. That's the capacity to adapt. And believe me, it's not easy because I was not that adaptive in that sense, in this way, within my industry and for the kind of sound I was doing. Feel me? You know me, brother. Brother King, that's how we do. So it's like, when you understand that, it's going to require me of now becoming more of a business-minded person, and understanding that, okay, for me to be that, the best way I can is to surround myself with fucking successful business people and attract the kind of energy I want to be surrounded with, of course, but also the kind of space I want to stand in, firm, strong, and prosperous, right? I don't think anyone was able to replicate, let alone monetize the ancestral soul. I will say you pioneered. Thank you very much. So you see, I will tell you exactly the way I feel about how the industry in general feels about me. I think there's a lot of respect for what I've done within the industry, and I get the accolades, but to a certain extent. But there's also a certain thing about like like he's not cool enough, or he's not. There's always the thing where it's like, yeah, it's just never enough. And no matter how adaptive, and no matter how you try to refresh yourself while still keeping and maintaining personality, because I'm not saying that you need to forget about who you are and just become a completely, you can do that, but I mean, you gotta have some personality, right? And I think that's another thing. When you have personality, you're comfortable in your own skin, to a certain extent, it will disturb some, because as much as people love your shit, there's people that hate you, that for no reason, and I wouldn't necessarily call them haters, because I mean, it's an easy word, but they're just, it's just the way it is. That's just life, right? So, it's interesting when you speak with really truly honest people who actually know what's up and tell you exactly how they feel about a given situation, and you're able to speak heart to heart. You never or rarely hear them speak like that in public, and it's very interesting, because you're like, but what are you scared of, and however, you are expected to be the one who always give love to the others, and it's okay, because I mean, I'm genuinely doing it because I really feel no fear whatsoever in letting somebody know that they're amazing at what they do and they fucking deserve all the success. But at a certain point, you adapt. You're like, okay, cool. What am I doing this for? Truthfully and honestly, 21 years in the game, to be quite honest with you, I've had quite a few underground hits. I'm not at the end of my career. I still have, God willing, a lot more to do, to accomplish, and a lot more accolades to gather, and inshallah, more success. But at the same time, I also have to be realistic. 21 years, I've spent the time of a whole grown human being, 21 years old, right? In an industry, I'm not that steaming hot piece of iron on the fire, right? It got cold, and yeah, you still you're still sharp, you're still very fucking sharp, but you're like this. I look at myself as an old samurai sword, this ninja sword. It's like it's like the older it is, the more expensive, the more refined, the more great. Still, that is not going to carry you through time if you don't maintain a sense of humility and capacity to keep adapting to the new times that you're forced to embrace, right? Nicole Gonzalez, it was crazy day here, but money well spent, and you're welcome. That wasn't for you. I'm trying to know more about painting of myself for the okay. Yeah. So you see, as I pose myself this question, am I still gonna be a DJ that people call all the time, promoters here and there, fucking Mexico or fucking whatever, etc., etc.? I don't know that. I mean, I don't know what God has in plan for me when it comes to that side of my career. But I do know one thing, is that in this time and age, and in this COVID era and post-COVID era, things have changed. I have changed tremendously. And I don't see certain things that most of my colleagues see as sacred anymore. DJing on my YouTube channel every Fridays, I don't see that as taboo. My numbers show, my subscriptions show it. And beyond even all this dumb shit, the energy is being felt. And what I'm trying to do is give people a bit of my positivity, a bit of this light and this love, I firmly believe still has to hold a serious place and space in a lot of our hearts. And that's what we need. The music that plays in the background right now, cosmogenesis. I'm talking about African cosmogenesis. I'm literally writing a text with my solo. I'm talking about ancient Africa. I'm talking about the evolution and the capacity of us as people of African descent and beyond to be evolved and to be modern and all that, but still, whether you want it or not, that ancestry, that tradition, that mystique will always be part of you. And because at the end of the day, no matter how much I adapt, I'm always going to have this serious anchoredness. I'm good, right? So I can float in the air. I can, because my base is strong. It's anchored. So yes, I can go places and still come back and be me. And that is not easy because you get joked about, diminished, etc., as I said before, and that your ego, you have to be cool with it. And believe me, it's not easy. It's not easy at all. But it's amazing to be able to achieve that. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's harder than others. But overall, I'm cool. Wrap my head around it, right? Erica, the journey for me has been clarifying and nurturing my calling and seizing the opportunities to keep growing and sharing the lessons and dancing to your tunes, brother Boddhi, along the way. Thank you. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. And you see, these are the kind of témoignages, testimonies that I love to read because it shows me that what, even if it's 5, 10 of you saying that, I've done my job. Done my job because you know what? You've been receptive to the love I'm trying to give and to the message I'm trying to share with y'all. Right? Sigolame, Muswete. I think that is why I was never able to fully adapt and embrace other genres of house as much as I did Ancestral Soul till date. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. I appreciate that. But you see, and that's the thing. But okay, you see, that's the thing. This lack of adaptation as well is dangerous. Not saying that your taste, by all means, consume Ancestral Soul all day. I mean, it's great for business, but technically, there's nothing wrong in the other forms that exist. I think there's got to be a necessary dose of everything, a little bit of everything, because when you eat food, you mix in different spices, right? There's layers, It's just this amazing mixture of flavors, right? So no matter what it is that you eat, and then you're always gonna have your preferred kind of food, and Ancestral Soul and the kind of music that I'm doing is, and a couple of other guys also do, is the type of shit you're into. That's fantastic. But it doesn't take away from the other sounds. And that's exactly, you just described here without you realizing exactly how a lot of people in this industry have felt and probably still feel about what I'm doing. Because Ancestral Soul is not just one thing. It's like a multiverse within that universe, right? It's crazy. It's its own reality within the reality, but that still is the reality. It's a very weird thing because it's like, shit, it can be this, it can be that, it can be this, but it's still that. Hey, how confusing. And in a way, I created a system that is amazing, but it has a life of its own, and it for now might play against me in a way for the industry and for the standards of the industry, and I'm cool with it. I've learned to be accepting it, and I've learned to be humble about it, because my calling is in other things. As you evolve, as you become a different kind of, a human, in that human experience of yours, life shapes you. Hurt, experiences, etc. All that shit shapes you to become a version of yourself that's going to be stronger, that's going to be more aware, or less sensitive to certain things, or just but you've got to be comfortable with all of these new versions of yourself that you're becoming, because that's just what it is. But you've got to maintain love. You got to maintain love inside of your soul, inside of your heart, inside of your spirit, inside of yourself. Erica, brother Boddhi is anchored and grounded. Bless up. You're an inspiration. Thank you very much. Yes, indeed. We try. I'm not always anchored though, but for the most part, I try to be. Segolami, I'm still that guy who bounced up your music at sessions in Botswana, and people light up and say, "Man, that man was heavy." You see, brother, this is the thing, right? It's like that man was heavy. It's so interesting to me. A lot of people refer to me as the past. A lot of people from in Southern Africa, for example, it's almost and you know what? A couple of years ago in 2016, I went back to I went to South Africa. And by the way, I DJed once in Gaborone, and man, I love Botswana. The energy there. I was there with DJ Fresh. We were not DJing at the same place, but yeah, we were obviously in Gaborone around the same time, and it was just an amazing moment. Big shout out to my brother Kitso as well. Been a minute since we spoke. But yeah, so it's interesting. That scene refers to Boddhi Satva as back then. There's this interesting nostalgia and almost like a refusal to allow me to give you the new me, which is so much more interesting than what I was. I'm not saying that what I was bad. It's amazing. I mean, it's fucking great, because it was raw, it was new, but what is now is so much more layered and much more sophisticated. You were there too? I do. So you see, and I was there with my brother Dinga Gaba, right? We were there, and the gig wasn't a long gig. We DJed two places. I think we DJed at this cafe the day before, and then we DJed the promoters. It was a bit of a shitty organization, actually, by the way, that next day thing. But yeah, it still was an experience that was amazing. But yeah, to come back to the point, so for example, Southern Africa in general, all Southern African countries have a perception of Boddhi Satva that is almost like y'all buried me already. And so as I said, when I was there in 2016, I came back there with just all this enthusiasm, and I realized that the mindset had changed, the business had changed, and personalities had changed, of course. People become bigger, much more known, etc., etc., etc. So it's like, all right, cool, I get it. But then I realized that, I wasn't going to be taken back. It's almost like a love that you've left and allowed to be tarnished by, distance, which was never my intent. But as I always said, and that's the truth about my career, I've played so many different places, but there's a lot of places that never brought me back twice. And bear in mind, venue, people spent hundreds of thousands of euros when I was DJing. They made all the money in the world, but they would not bring me back another time. It was not a lack of respect, it was not a lack of attitude. I'm a very respectful, very professional guy. I don't do drugs. I'll drink a little bit of alcohol, but never in an immoderate way. I don't like to be drunk. And most of the time, actually, I'm very cool with a nice little Coca-Cola or cranberry juice, and I'm good. And I go back to my hotel alone, by the way. So it never was a thing. So maybe because it was that, because I wasn't necessarily doing the coke, I wasn't necessarily doing this shit, which is cool. I mean, it's like to each their own. Like, I'm not judging, but it was very Yeah, probably I wasn't part of the crew, and I'm still not part of the crew in that sense. And to be quite honest with you, I don't really care to be part of the crew in that sense. I'm just like, where has gone meritocracy? Where has gone, you know, the concept and the idea of, you know, rewarding hard work? And that's what it is. I'm one of the hardest working motherfuckers in this game, and that's a fact. However, I'm not doing it to impress, to get the numbers and the credit and the accolades from my peers. I got that already. So it's not something that I'm trying to prove, but it's just because I'm now working not to impress, I'm working to, and I think everyone should think like that. When you've done the rounds of impressing and doing all of that shit, you've done all that. Okay, cool. Now you're building legacy. I'm not saying that I haven't done that with, obviously testimonies of people saying how much I've influenced them, and that's amazing. But I'm talking about true legacy in the form of music, where it's like I need to augment my production and productive capacity. And I have done that thanks to my good brother Kay, who has been very, very, very pivotal in allowing me to see through his practice, through his way of doing business, that I could adapt some of these formulas to my way of doing things and still be very fucking successful, right? And encounter things in the future that I'm yet to see. So, Erica, he said, Brother Boddhi, sorry I was late in this live. At which point did you realize your craft had a greater impact beyond the individual benefit it has brought to your life? Well, I realized that rather soon, because you've got to understand my calling to music was a therapy, because in our culture in Central African Republic, at least, or in general African culture, we don't have a thing of going to a psychologist or thing like that. We have elderly folks who are kind of like the psychologists, but it's different, right? So for me, music was a way to express all that was inside of me that I could express in words, because you might see me as a very talkative person, very this, but actually I'm a very timid. Initially, I was a very timid kid. Very, I remember it was hard to really get to me. It was, yeah. I've always used ways to make it, to not be bothered or ask questions that I was not able to respond to in a structured way. And because I was also the eldest, I was the firstborn of all the grandkids of my family, both on my father and my mother's side. There was a lot of expectations, of course, and so music was this exutory that allowed me to just really, just express all of these things. And I started realizing that, oh shit, I'm not just healing me now. I mean, I'm literally having people coming at me at the end of a party, telling me, look, I'm sorry to share this with you, but I had planned to. This was supposed to be my last party, and I had planned to throw myself off a fucking bridge tomorrow, because life didn't make no fucking sense anymore to me. And when most people would be like, oh my God, I was like, oh really? I've always had a capacity to not make somebody feel bad about themselves and not feel judged, but try to understand and have a conversation. And my music is a conversation of me with you and you with yourself. That's always been the intention behind my heart, and elevating your entire spirit the best I could through music, because I'm trying to elevate my spirit every time I make a song. Because we, by essence, will never reach perfection, but we aim at poking it, and that's what make us great. And that, in a way, because when you always try to, reach it, even though you might tickle it, you might poke it, but you will never hold it, because imperfection is perfection. in my opinion. And so, yes, I took a long circle to answer your question, but I realized that, 21 years, I realized that really early, man. It was already, I realized that even before I was actually, I really made my big break in the game in 2009. I was already making music for quite some time by then. There was something, and it truly is about personality. I think you can see people who are not animated by love and true, genuine care for others. It shows with time. It may not show right away because they're very good at covering it by, appearing a certain way. But put in a certain situation, you will see the true color. And usually it shows in the music as well. But not always. I've met in my industry, that's what sometimes they say, never meet your heroes. Well, I met one and who became my brother, and that's Keisha. Because I remember I was in Central African Republic, I was listening to Keisha's music already, and I was like, we're big fans already back then. So imagine. So, but some of your heroes will be your biggest disappointments, because the moment you give them an opportunity to feel that they can diminish you, they will not hesitate, because you know what? They're scared of what you can do. When you're actually not here to compete, this is your hero. This is like a guy you look up to, and that guy diminishes you. It can show. And again, you might be the biggest fan of the music, and then when you realize that, you're like, oh fuck, you never listen to the music the same way again. But eventually, funny enough, the same person who did that, we met actually not so long ago, right before this pandemic hit us. And that same guy looked at me with the most respect and consideration. It was very interesting to see. And I wasn't contemptuous. I was a little bit guarded, but I was still, warm, because I understand, right? This is the thing, I understand, so I'm not mad at you. I understand. I find it unfortunate, but I understand, right? So, yeah, man. The music is something that the message within the music is something that takes time to shape as well. It takes a long time to shape it. But I think that when it's done with a kind and genuine desire to just bless people the best way you can and try to elevate them, it doesn't take long before it gets acknowledged. So Erica, I hope I answered your question properly. Lorraine, the last 2 years have taught me that adaptability is crucial to survival and to thrive. I've been learning about being more like water, being myself, no other versions, and go with flow. You're right. My father used to tell me when I was a kid, he said, I don't know if it's Bruce Lee who said that, I don't know who he quoted, but he said something. He said, you have to be like water. You have to adapt. But you know what? Even more so, you have to understand the power of water is so underestimated. A small drop can carve a seriously thick, strong, and tones heavy stone. A drop. So beat that drop. And don't be scared. In other words, keep going for your goals. Keep hitting. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Because you know what, eventually, mathematically talking, it's impossible that you won't be noticed. It's impossible that you won't achieve your goals and vision. Erica, much has such a powerful healing effect. I love your convo with Brother Shumade on the effect of the frequencies of music, powerful knowledge. Yes, indeed. This is amazing. Oshunade is the first artist, DJ, producer that made me cry on a dance floor. I literally cried. I remember vividly. He was DJing at Stereo Sushi, famous club back then in Antwerp, Belgium. I was working for this small radio station, radio show called radio City Groove. Big shout out to my good brother Daniel Vega, who gave me my first, taste for the mic and producing a show, etc. It was on Radio Vibration in Brussels, operating from Brussels, and I went to Antwerp, and I was given the contact of Oshulade's agent at the time, Peter Boonen, and Oshulade used to be booked by what is now called and known as Live Nation, but known then as Clear Channel. Sorry. They're the ones who do like all these. Well, in Belgium and France, I think in other countries around the world, they do all these commercials in the streets, bus stops, etc. They had the section of their business was doing events like Live Nation, and so they were booking Oshunade, and Oshunade's agent within that company was Peter Boonen. Peter was this tough dude. He was a bit dry, not very cool, but it was cool, but just cold. And I called him, and I remember I was shaking. I was like, "Yes, hello. I'm working for this radio station. I'd love to interview you." Anyway, fast forward. The guy made it a bit hard, but I was so persistent, but in a respectful way. I didn't bother the guy. He was like, I don't have time now, but call me back in an hour. So I did that. A couple of times he didn't pick up, then he picked up eventually. And I was always aware, because that's also my background. I come from a background in politicians. My grandfather was a renowned opponent to the government, many governments in my country. So I understood diplomacy from a very young age because I've seen it. I've observed it firsthand, with him, my dad, as well as a businessman. So I understood the importance of leverage. So I had a man who's now my business partner in the label by Takari, who's Peter Adakwa, and I had sent a message, a respectful message to Peter. I said, "Would you mind just letting Oshunade know that I'd like to interview him," or something like that. I can't remember exactly what I said, but something in those lines. And so by saying that, Oshunade went and said, "Hey, by the way, my guy Peter Adakwa told me that there's this guy that wants to interview me. Please tell them that it's fine." Now, that guy didn't have no choice but to call me back and say, "Hey, I think it was something, it happened around this kind of way." And so anyway, went to Antwerp, attended to that interview, and Oshunade, as the amazing person that he is, and serious babalao. He just laid his hand on my shoulder, and he could automatically see there was something. I was truly in pain. I had just had my heart broken by this girl that I was deeply in love with at the time. But I had been broken. My heart had been broken by her so already about 2-3 years by that time. But then I just took me long to surmount it, and he just gave me this ritual to do, cleanse myself once I got home after the party, and that everything will be fine. I did that ritual, cleanse myself, and everything was fine. It was like I had to take this bath of I had to take this bath of white roses and milk and and cologne. And so that was very powerful. And in other words, Oshunade's music made me cry on the dance floor. And that night I went back home and I did my first project that he released on Yoruba Records. That was the label. It still is a fucking amazing label to be signed on or to really release music with. But he responded to me a week later, and I sent him Bria's Offering, which was my first big solo project. And it was a manifestation that I could not see. Here you are, you've manifested it. You've transformed your thought into action, your action into something that can clearly be seen, heard, felt. And automatically the feedback he gave me was what you had said. It's like there was an energy about my sound that was just different. But I'm not unique in that sense. There's many of us with that kind of gift. Okay, Segolami. Well, it's sad to hear that your reception in South Africa was not repetitive. It really is. However, it brings me great joy that you take it with great humility and look to improve yourself in art. What can we mere listeners to go to your head and get those promoters emailing you? You see, you're not just a mere listener. You're active actor of the scene. You contributing and you're present and you're part of a movement, right? And that movement can make a lot of things happen. That's where that's why I'm always, and that's the funny thing. I've always had the love of the listeners, the music fans, but the music industry has always had a very strange relationship with me. Maybe because I have a strange relationship with the music industry in the sense that I respect everybody in the game, truly do though, but I don't care about politics and I don't care about kissing asses. That doesn't mean that I'm not able to respect and I'm not able to allow a person to be the lioness or the lion that they want to be in their zones. Like, it's cool with me because, again, I'm not claiming territories. I'm just doing my own thing. Now, if my own thing is making you feel uncomfortable, or you don't even see it, not even making you feel uncomfortable, but you don't even see it because it's too little for you, that's also cool. But to actually pinpoint exactly what is the issue, I wouldn't be able to tell. And how you can actually influence promoters? Well, by just letting them know, because that's the funny thing. All promoters are getting ousted by the new ones in the game, who are guys like yourself who love my music and also eventually became promoters and like, yo man, we want to bring Boddhi, whatever the case might be. You know what I mean? You never know who grows with your music and who wants to bring you, etc., etc. But there's also a thing where it's like, when you're a nice person and people identify you as being very cool, they have a tendency to think that your price and your value is as cool as you are. Well, and that's another thing, when people refuse to pay your value, and that's where you also have to adapt. Is my value what I want it to be or what the market says it is? And that's where adaptation and adaptability is a bitch, because you're like, fuck, I believe I'm worth $50,000. It's not impossible to reach that amount. Colleagues of mine who get $100 plus $1,000, but they've achieved a different kind of success, a different kind of exposure, right? Now, what I believe I'm worth is not factually true within the status of the market, because I am not in the space with the type of people doing the type of sound, just being part of a certain tribe that associate me with being somebody that is worth that kind of money. Even if you try your hardest to get into that world, at a certain point you gotta have a little bit of self-esteem and be like, look, it's cool. I don't think that you're yet to understand again that I am not dead. Just like you said, oh, that man used to that whole past tense situation and take that a lot of people in the industry have had, and fans of the music is very interesting, because the new people consuming my music for the past 5 or 7 years, they consume literally everything. They're open for it. They're craving for it. They're embracing it. Even if they're not necessarily into it, but they'll still welcome it. And I think that this is where sometimes it's very difficult when you as an artist, you evolve and you kind of leave your fans, your core fans or original fans behind, because they still hold on to that feeling you gave them at a certain moment. And I understand that feeling, because when I listen to some artists that I'm a fan of, I always go back to the albums that they've done, or the music that the songs that they've done that touched me. But I changed that as of the past couple of years, because I was like, no, it's not fair. I need to be able to appreciate an artist for also the things that they're doing now. And I think it's quite refreshing when you actually allow yourself to think about it and be like, hey, you know what? Yeah, actually, it's kind of cool. It's actually kind of fucking amazing. You're doing cool new shit. Still a fan of your old stuff though, but I love the new shit too. And that's where, yeah, adaptability is necessary. But yeah, coming back to understanding what your value is, and making sure that your value is not over the top, but also under what the market should pay for. I notice that this camera is not. It's a difficult thing to do, but it's necessary to know what your worth is. And you know what, when you decide you're going to go a certain way, be about it, follow that pathway, and that's it. Stay focused, and it's okay. You're gonna have backlashes all the fucking time. You're gonna have people who be like, where's that money? You're not this, you're not that. Look, my man, it's fine. What you believe is cool. I'm creating something that goes beyond what you believe is. And whatever it is that you do in life, be understanding, be aware that time will always be your friend, but it can also be your enemy. By friend, I mean, as long as you're active and you stay productive, you are able to somehow manage to always be a step ahead, or at least on time, but not late, not too late. And one thing that I had realized that I have not been doing, because I was so caught up with my DJing and stuff like that, and I was making money from that, I had not worked really thoroughly on my catalog, which has now become my full focus, and which now results in also me embracing NFTs and embracing new technologies and new ways to express my artistry and to create value. And 5 years from now, I can be like, okay, all of this hard work is now bringing me a steady income of, X amount, X thousands of money per month. And now I no longer have to worry about this, that, and the other. And I think that independence is one thing that one has to really look to build and truly work for. And understanding that you're not going to be hot all the time. You're not going to be in demand by the market all the time. It does not exist. And you got to accept that there is a moment, everybody's turn comes, and it can take a long time. But when it comes for you, and you've prepared already, you're ready, you got everything in place, you are maximizing to the next level. All of these days, these nights, these weeks, these months of sweat, sorrow, the whole shebang. Now, all of a sudden, you're like, fuck. This is transitioning into something concrete, palpable, and real. And now I am to be smart and know how I'm going to adapt to that new reality and be a master of my destiny. Let me see all the comments. Yeah. Erica, Lauren is responding to Erica. Life experience are the best teachers. Once we learn to be patient with all ourselves and our environment, it gets easier and better. Can we agree that Bodhi's music plays a big part in it? Erica responds to Lauren, no doubt. Thank God. Thank you very much. Thank you, Queens. I appreciate your very precious support deeply, and it's very humbling. Um, it's it means a lot. It means a lot because what I'm trying to say here at the end of the day. I think everything that I had to say has been very clear, but ultimately, what matters to me is the true music lovers, the music consumers, those who are not into partisanship, those who are not into politics, but just truly understand and appreciate music for what it is and embrace it from whom it comes from, right? And get to try to know and embrace that environment, that world, and truly just try to understand. And that's why I love this mean of communication, which is this mode of communication. Sorry, um, uh, which is this internet, this YouTube, this whole thing that allows me to share ideas, share again information that can give you context to what it is I'm doing and what it is I've been working on and still work on and will continue working on building, which is, you know, something that I hope will live way after I'm gone. Nicole Gonzalez, you should continue to do whatever you are doing because everything is about digital world, and the more you stay on YouTube, the more money you make without you moving yourself out. Yeah, I mean it's true, and it's also echoing what I was saying earlier, where it's about consistency. Whether you're on YouTube, on Twitch, whatever is your tool of expression and the tool to service what it is that you're servicing out there to the world, consistency is always going to be key. So for sure. Stegola Memo Sweaty. Yeah, just like Kitendi, you raised my eyebrow there. Then I remember that you used to do hip hop. I do enjoy the release post interpretations part too. You see, yeah, you're old head, a whole fan of Boddhi Satva, and that's interesting because you've seen the journey, right? But my question is, have you listened to the Amapiano shit that I'm doing? A couple of tunes that I've been doing, and I'm about to do more because I'm taking my own twist. I'm giving my ancestral soul twist to the Amapiano sound, which essentially is so similar to what I was doing before even it was known to be Amapiano. Nothing, but I know that I have done. There's a song that I did that I produced. Which year was it? I think it was 2010, 2011, I think, called In Your Loving Memory. If you go back to my catalog and check out Boddhi Satva In Your Loving Memory, it was for a friend of mine, a lady that I had met in Bamako. She was working at the French Lycée, French school in Bamako, and she was one of the purest souls and kindest human I had met. And she died, very abruptly, very suddenly. And it really left a sense of emptiness. She was such a remarkable person. And that sound is bringing back memories. And that song, In Your Loving Memory, if you listen to the bass line and if you listen to the production, you slow it down to 110 BPM, 115 BPM. Actually, I think it was around 110 BPM, like on some Amapiano vibe. It's Amapiano. It's my piano if you want to. I don't pronounce it, but you see, it's amazing how now the sound has been taken to a different level, to a different, you know, sort of like space where, you know, what was before, and that's something that I've always said to some engineers, what was before perceived as a mistake sonically, and which is actually technically a sonic mistake of using those very flat kicks, kick drums, and very weird, you know, sounds. The music industry, the world embraced those songs. Just over now, because now Amapiano has become is a bit more polished. But but at least for a moment, what was service to the world was some of them were polished, some of them were just very raw. But it's that rawness that people liked. You know, those shekere, that very weak ass kick drum with those heavy fucking bass thing is going on. It's like, whoa, seriously? What the fuck? And it has to come from a mistake. Because I would hardly believe that intentionally a producer, for example, me, I'm too skilled at what I do to allow, unless, and you will tell, right? Even if I want to make a sound grainy, you'll be like, okay, he's done it purposely like that. But a lot of these things were very, you can say it was just an impulsion, and the guys probably dropped these tunes. They didn't quite know necessarily how to mix the records properly. But then it had a sound, it had a vibe and a feeling to it. And that's what it is. It's out of these mistakes, these errors, that you're able to come up sometimes with some of the most amazing. And I think some of the most amazing songs that I've done personally were, or drum patterns that I created were errors. Was literally shit that I didn't mean to do, and then, oh shit, it happened. And then after that, I've learned how to do them again. But initially, it was all experimentation. And I remember when I started in the industry, people were like, yo, your kick drums are fucking heavy, bro. But I always liked a drum that to be round and to be hitting you in the gut, in the heart, making you feel like, you know, giving you a fucking feeling. Those light ass kicks never turned me on. I need something that gives me that feeling. And I remember there was a my first studio experience was with this guy. Big shout out to Christophe Delamere, man. We clashed a lot. But thank you to him. I've learned what I didn't want to do in music, and I've learned quite a lot through that experience, because I was not experimenting at the time, but I knew that I had something in me, and just was very frustrated because I couldn't express it, because I didn't know how to use the tools. But I knew what I was hearing in my head. And you know, one guy who I have to give his flowers to, big brother, Mr. C. Robert Walker. We were in that studio, and maybe one day I'll have him on the show to speak on that. I'm gonna try to reach out to him and see if he would be down to talk. He told me, he said, hey, there's something about you. You can't let nobody tell you how you need to sound. There's something about you. And thankfully, I've listened to him. And, you know, after that experience, and I was very thankful for that experience, because, you know, it cost me a lot of money. Me and my dad, as a matter of fact. My dad helped me with investment at the time. And it was actually the last time my father ever put money in the music I was doing. The first and last time, you know, he was like, look, I'm gonna help you here now, and for your trip to Miami to go promote that record. But then after that, you know, that will be my only contribution. That's it. I said, okay, cool. And yeah, man, I remember he was debating with me about the kick drums, and already then I was like, yo, I need my kick drums to be thumping like that. He was like, no, your kick drum needs to be with that frequency, with this. And I was like, nah, man. And then a couple of years later, this fucking 808s, this, you know, it's like a new trend. Go figure it out, man. And that's where it's like, shit, when you don't want to adapt and you refuse to a certain extent to adjust your formula a bit, you'll miss the boat 9 times out of 10. Again, well, I don't know how many times I've been using terminology or that term. Um, that's that, family. Wow, feels good to be back, and this conversation is um, is one I did not expect to have with you guys. But that's the tone I wanted to bring to the show. Because it's funny because when I do Instagram lives, there's a different flow because the interaction is more direct. Well, not that it's not direct, but you can literally see the people popping in, and it's different. But yeah, I needed to get my swag, my verbal swag back, and just feel just comfortable really doing this. Again, it took me some time to wrap my head around what I wanted to do and how I wanted to present the message. And yeah, surround yourself with people that are successful, that are people who want to achieve things in their lives beyond themselves, and that are not full of themselves as well, because that's another thing. You need humility. You need humility around you to because example, right? Because these people will be the ones to keep you grounded as well if you ever were tempted to act bigger than life, which is okay, it's understandable, but you gotta take yourself back into reality real quick before it's too late. Second level also things like Chekesha be like the drop of water carved the rock, as Iso mentioned earlier. Yeah, I think to a certain extent, I think it takes true care and love for friend to be patient with them and understanding that what, but it's not being patient in vain, because it's placing patience into somebody or upon somebody that is doing the work to get where you see them potentially going. They want to try and then figure out if it's working or not, because you could be both wrong. But then eventually try small. That's what it is. Influencing friends and people you care for who are willing to really do the work. No way. Single love memo. So they say no way. I just listened to In Your Loving Memory. Slow down. Looks like you had the jump on my piano for a bit long. In dire anticipation, I wait for what you have in store if you're international. Look, man, I just didn't know, but now it's called Amapiano. But yeah, check out my Bandcamp. If you go to my Bandcamp, let me see if I can pull it up here. But basically, what I'm doing now is that I'm releasing my music primarily. I mean, obviously, it's on all the platforms, but because for all the other platforms it takes about a month to be uploaded, now I've decided that I'm going to release it a song a day. As a matter of fact, after I'm done the show, I'm going to design my next cover art for the song I'm dropping either tonight or tomorrow. So I'm dropping new music literally almost every day, every 2 days on my Bandcamp, and then these songs will come out on my Spotify, etc. As time passes. So this is my my Bandcamp. If you want to go check it out, you can also follow me there. But yeah, man. There's a song, as a matter of fact, on that Bandcamp, Wenaz song, actually inspired by this friend of mine who is a beautiful lady, inside out, who is also from Botswana, and who's been a very, very good friend of mine for many, many years. And she would always be, hey, wena, and I was like, oh, you know what? And one time I was just working on music, and I was thinking about her and how much she loves on my piano and Afro house and all of that. And I was like, and I remember how she moved on music, and I always loved the way she dances. So I made a beat that is inspired by her pretty much. And so, I actually told her, I said, yo, by the way, I did this tune and you really inspired me, that tune. She's like, oh my God, yo, man, you serious? Damn, bro. I was like, yo, man, yeah, that's what it is. So Check it out. Check it out. See? Interesting. Lorraine, thank you, Boddhi, and keep making those hot beats. When is Mantra dropping? Mantra has already dropped. Go to Bandcamp, but it's dropping on all the other platforms. To look at the calendar, but it's dropping soon. So basically, what's happening is that Bandcamp, if you go to my Bandcamp, you will always, well, from now on, at least stuff that's coming out on my label, offering recordings, will come out always first on Bandcamp, right? You pay euro or dollar or more if you want, and you get the tune right away. Or you can just stream it, or you can also just wait and get it on your Spotify in the coming months. But basically, the idea is to have a song literally every one or more songs coming every week. No, one song per week, literally throughout the whole year. And my album, remember, I still have the singles off of my album dropping soon, and my album coming out in May. So yeah, this man, y'all in for a serious treat in music. I'm telling you, I'm on fire, and I give thanks to the Almighty and the universe for aligning itself, aligning things for me to be creative and to have that juice and that drive. And I thank you as well, family, for being so supportive. Lost Stark, Boddhi Satva featuring DJ Arafat and Davido and DJ Arafat. Indeed, that was my first day I discovered your music. Oh man, for real, huh? Big tune, man, big tune. And that's another one, right? Talk about, making history. Man, I made the one and only tune that Arafat and Davido did together. Big shout out to Charles Tabou and Kobelik. Oh, God, come on. Can't forget the name. It took me a moment on that. Aja, voilà. Aja Kobele Keita. Big shout out to the both of them, and as well Kamal Ajiboye, good brother Kamal, for making that happen. This song was Davido. And that's the thing, Davido. Whenever I meet Davido, he's like, man, he always tell people, yo, this is the guy. Showed me this is the guy that gave me my first hit in the francophone world. And it's true, But yeah, it's just one of those things. It's sometimes I'm just like, because we cannot deny the fact that I am very well aware that some people look at me, they're like, no, it can't be him doing this music. Some people can be bothered by that. But it's so good, Son of the soil, the African soil indeed. Because I am home wherever I go on the continent. What it is. African is at heart, love of the continent, and comfortable everywhere I go, especially when I'm in Africa. In general, citizen of the world. Let's practice open-mindedness and open-heartedness. Yes, indeed, family. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. This is my cue. Such a beautiful exchange with y'all. Thank you very much to my good brother Papa Kesha for the presence and for the donation as well. You can definitely show love not only by pressing the like button, please do that, but also obviously by donations, subscribe to the channel, go get some merch on my website, boddhi-satva.com. This is my own creations. I make these myself. Worldwide delivery, by the way. So you go to my website and you'll get all the merch, be part of that movement. Go and stream my music on the streaming platforms. Do what you gotta do. You have all the links possible and imaginable in the description section of this video. As always, it's a pleasure. Segola Memo Swete, thank you very much for your presence and interaction. Lorraine, thank you very much. Lord Star, thank you for tuning in. Nicole Gonzalez, thank you very, very much as well. Erica, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. As always, supporting the shows actually, this Monday Quality Talks and the Friday show, Quarantine Grooves. Let me get there. Merci beaucoup. All my Buddhists, y'all most appreciated mountain of inspiration. Thank you as well for tuning in earlier. Neil and everyone else watching as well. The replay for the show. Thank you. If you've gone this far, then you've had courage, and I appreciate you for doing that. And as I send you off, and I shall see you again this Friday for Quarantine Grooves. I'm sending you off with Cosmogenesis, inspired by the great professor Musere Kalala Omotunde, a great anthropologist, thinker, philosopher, mathematician, etc., etc. Amazing writer, and a man I had a chance to speak to, and I'm hoping to invite him on one of those Monday Quality Talks. He speaks French predominantly, but I think he does speak English as well. So I'm going to see if I can invite him on the show for an MQT. Once again, fam, love and light. I shall see you Friday for Quarantine Grooves, and next week for another MQT. Oh damn, Lorraine, I just saw you purchase some music. Thank you very much. Thank you. I just received a notification. That was fast. Thank you. That's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful support. I appreciate you. Appreciate you, Queen. Queens and Kings, love and light.